Okay.
Okay, so most respected guest speaker for the day, Madam Rosa Dickert-Müller, who's the assistant professor and from Austria. Madam is at the University of Vienna, Center for Sports Science, Department of Sport Pedagogy, and she had a university degree in physical education, geography and computer science, PhD in sport pedagogy, aging and physical activity, and 1993 to 1998 teacher in schools, and 1993 to 2001 university assistant professor at the University of Vienna, Sports Sciences. In terms of research and teaching focus, area of interest has been sports pedagogy, didactics, gender, diversity studies, health promotion. Her functions, roles in the National International Scientific Associations were Vice President PASCOE, that is International Association of Physical Education and for Girls and Women, Chair ICSP, as the International Committee for Sport Pedagogy from 2017 to 2021, Vice President OSG, Austrian Association of Sports Science, Chair Sport Pedagogy, member of the Scientific Advisory Board, the Front Forum Bewegung and Sport Austrian Women's Forum Physical Education since 2001, co-founder of the Austrian platform from in sport platform Women in Sports, member of the Scientific Advisory Board of 100% Sports, that is the Austrian Center for Gender Competence in Sports, member of the Austrian Steering Group on Gender Equality and Sports from 2014 to 2020, chair of the Working Group Prevention of Sexual Harassment, Gewalt in Sport, Gender-Based Violence in Sport, member of the European Sport Pool on Sexual Violence in Sport. Partners in several European projects, Erasmus and Plus Project Cases, 2019-21. Yet another project, Voices for Truth and Dignity, Combating Sexual Violence in European Sport through Voices of Those Affected, 2016 to 18. And SMS, that is Sports, Media and Stereotypes. UNAPA and PASIO, Aging and Physical Activity. TENAP, Adapted Physical Activity. LENA, Learning in Old Age. Impala, Leisure Time Activity Promotion. EU EACA, Gender-Based Violence in Sport. She conducted several nationally funded projects in the area of gender equality or promotion of sports and girls, kindergarten physical activity of girls and boys, and outdoor areas of kindergarten, that is 2012 to 16. Schoolyards and gender relations, 2006 to 2008. August, women's sport goes school in different sports, 2006 to 2012. Sexual harassment and discrimination in sport, gender training for coaches, 2004 to 2006, and from 2012 to 2015. Furthermore, she's a member of the several editorial boards, currently for the Austrian Journal, especially for female PE teachers, girls and physical education, since 2001, published once a year. Madam, indeed, it's such a vast portfolio that you tend to have, and your area is very unique, and it's a need of the hour. And since we have a seminar also tomorrow, which has to do with sport, it's a webinar actually, sport for national integration and global solidarity, and of that which human rights come in, and a very important role which you have to play. So indeed, we are very fortunate because most of us know things, but we don't know how to go about finding it. And we often leave it unnoticed and we find it's okay. That's the biggest challenge. And in the Indian scenario is nothing exceptional. There are problems, but our PE teachers, even though they're very, they are aware, but I'm sure that this knowledge, information is going to be of utmost importance. So on behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Hello India, a warm welcome to our most dignified speaker, most wanted speaker, I'd say, for the session. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. I'd like to welcome Professor Claudia, ma'am, from Mexico, a person who's so close to us in terms of heart. You're very close to us. Thank you very much, ma'am, for gracing this occasion, being a part of this, because your presence does make a difference. I also would like to welcome Dr. G. Kishore sir, who's the principal and the regional director of Sports Authority of India. I'd like to welcome Dr. Sanjeev Patil and all my dear PE teachers. सारे PE teachers को मैं इस program के लिए आप लोगों को welcome कर रही हूँ. And once again, और आपको कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम से आप प्लीज जब लिखिएगा, मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश करूंगी, लेकिन आप क्वेश्चन जब लिखते हैं वो सोच समझ के लिखिएगा. क्योंकि हमें इतने अच्छे इंटरनेशनल जो मिल रहे हैं. मैडम बहुत रिनाउंड एक्सपर्ट हैं, एंड स्पेशली जो सेक्सुअल हरासमेंट और ये जो प्रॉब्लम्स लड़कियों के साथ होती है उसको यूरोपियन लेवल पे, IOC लेवल पे बहुत हाई लेवल पे ये लोग काम कर चुके हैं. तो हम लोग का मैडम को होना बहुत सौभाग्य है. इसलिए मैं आपसे पूछती कि अगर कोई भी क्वेश्चन आप पूछ सकते हैं, लेकिन प्लीज आप क्वेश्चन लिखेंगे तो ऐसा क्वेश्चन मत डालिएगा जिससे कि लोगों को क्वेश्चन सिर्फ पूछने के लिए, अगर आपको बोर भी लग रहा है तो प्लीज कुछ भी आप मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं. और ये बहुत जरूरी टॉपिक है क्योंकि हम सब जानते हैं लड़कियों के लिए कितनी प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, लेकिन उसमें हमें क्या क्या स्टेप्स लेना पड़ता है उसके बारे में. सो सारे टीचर्स को मैं आप सबको मैं वेलकम करती हूँ. सो वंस अगेन warm welcome to our speaker. Over to you, ma'am. Rosa Dixit Miller, for your session, please.
Yes.
Rosa, the problem is I may have to explain in Hindi in between for them wherever it's required. So maybe I may have to explain. Certain times they may not be in a position to understand because this group, there are a number of them who have a problem. So at times I'll translate towards the end. So you can expect what you spoke, again, a question coming up.
But you're...
I'll explain. I'll explain to you once you take a session, then I can put forth the question to you. So once you speak, I can interpret to them.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. So welcome everybody. Sushanya, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me to have a place to present today the issue of safeguarding in sport, and I'll focus on the issues of harassment and abuse in sport. And I'd like to do this in those issues. On the one hand, I'm looking at myths, and second point, safeguarding and protecting children in sport and how to define it. We are looking for standards for safeguarding children, and finally looking for models of good practice and projects, and I summarize with different resources. So when it comes to the issue, the IOC had a consensus statement on harassment and abuse in sport in 2016, and it is said that it's incumbent upon all stakeholders in sport both to adapt general principles for safe sports and to implement and monitor the policies and procedures for safe sport. So it's very important to have this issue with the aim that all athletes have a right to be treated with respect and protected from non-accidental violence. So it's very important also for international associations and organizations that there is no violence and everybody is treated with respect. So coming to the myth, and I have some questions and you can answer it for yourself. And the first sentence misconception could be on the question if harassment and abuse occur in sport. And one can ask if this is a case in sport, and as you may think, if it's false or true, then you could think that it is true on the one hand, because there are numerous well-recognized benefits of sports participation. This is very, very important. And most of the organizations offer wonderful work for young people, elderly people, adolescents. But on the other hand, there is evidence that harassment and abuse is in all sports, at all levels. And the problem is that policies and procedures are often lacking in sports organizations. And as you've maybe heard from the Me Too campaign, the social media campaign in 2017, where an actress was focusing on that she was sexually harassed. And under the hashtag Me Too, there was also the situation that only an athlete, a female athlete who was Olympian, focused this too, and she wrote a hashtag that people should know it's not just happening in Hollywood or Bollywood maybe, it's also happening everywhere. And there is a position of power and the potential for abuse. And she was a woman who dreamed to go to the Olympics, and the things she had to endure to get there was unnecessary and disgusting. And there was an avalanche on reaction on it. And it was not only this actress, it was also maybe the situation of Larry Nassar. He was an USA gymnastics national team doctor, professor at Michigan State, and he was really the person who was in the media quite a lot some years ago. And he was sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison. You have to imagine, this is really long different lives for sexual assault with minors and at least 260 young women and girls. So, and everybody was asking, how could this happen and why didn't nobody tell about it? From this story, I will come to it afterwards a bit more in detail. You can imagine how difficult this topic is, because there is so much shame for the young people. It's not only girls, but also boys. They don't like to tell about because they feel guilty as well, because they did not prohibit it, or they were not able to say no. And this shows how difficult this process is. So there was also the question, harassment and abuse.
Dr. Rosa, could you just put up the question, because I think if I could just put that across to them in Hindi.
Yeah.
मैडम अभी बोल रही थी कि harassment माने जो sexual abuse है, मुझे सही तरह से हिंदी आता नहीं, बस उसके बारे में बोलना, क्योंकि स्पोर्ट में होता है कि नहीं इसके बारे में क्वेश्चन पूछा था। और ये देखा है कि मी टू एक मूवमेंट चला जहाँ पे उन्होंने सोचा कि मूवीज क्या बोलते हैं फिल्म की दुनिया में होती होगी ये सारा स्पोर्ट्स में नहीं, लेकिन स्पोर्ट्स में भी देखा गया है जो ओलंपिक की ड्रीम कर रहे थे वैसी लड़कियों पे भी काफी अब्यूज माने उनको भी बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स हुई है। और आप ये डॉक्टर का ये जो पिक्चर देख रहे हैं ये डॉक्टर निसार है, इनको 40 से 175 ईयर्स का जेल हुआ है, क्योंकि इन्होंने ये ओलंपिक मेडल प्रोड्यूस करने वाले फैक्ट्री थे, यूएस ओलंपिक टीम के जो डॉक्टर थे, इन्होंने 260 छोटी लड़कियों का जिंदगी पे इतना तनाव डाला जिसकी वजह से उनको मेडल तो मिला, लेकिन वो लोग बच्चे को बहुत ज्यादा तकलीफ हुई थी। और इतना सालों के बाद एक ने हिम्मत करके आगे आने की कोशिश की, और इसलिए आप जानते हैं अभी पूरी दुनिया में आईओसी इंटरनेशनल ओलंपिक कमेटी लेके आई है ये, तो इसकी वजह से बहुत साल लगा ये रिजल्ट आने में, लेकिन जब तक आया एक ने हिम्मत किया, एक लड़की ने हिम्मत करके जो ओलंपिक वगैरह में भाग ली, हिम्मत की करके उसने बताया कि ऐसा हुआ तभी, क्योंकि हमारी सोसाइटी में अगर कोई कुछ बोले उनको बहुत ज्यादा तकलीफ होता है। तो ये पूछा क्या स्पोर्ट्स में ऐसी होती है, तो डेफिनेटली होते, हम बोलते हैं नहीं होता लेकिन जरूर होती है। इसके बारे में मैडम जानकारी दे रही थी, और ये आपको बहुत जरूरी है जानकारी देने का, क्योंकि यूएस ओलंपिक टीम में जो जिम्नास्टिक्स में बच्चे, बहुत छोटे छोटे बच्चे जिम्नास्टिक्स करते हैं, तो उसमें क्या होता है कि छोटे बच्चे वो लोग अपने कोच को या जो भी है उनको अपने पेरेंट्स जैसे समझते हैं, उन पे विश्वास करते हैं, लेकिन इसका नतीजा क्या निकलता है वो कई बार बच्चे बोल नहीं पाते हैं। इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है ऐसी सीख भी हम बच्चों को दें कि कुछ भी चीज है उसको कैसे बच्चों को बोलना चाहिए उसके बारे में। Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Sham. Perfect. Second question. There often is, one could argue that this is occurring just in gymnastics or not in my sport. The answer is it could occur in each sport. It's not a typical kind of sport where harassment and abuse could occur. There is a study of fasting in all sports because there are different risks, especially in high athlete areas. Third question, harassment and abuse in sport only occur in certain countries. The answer is it's false. There are a number of studies that harassment and abuse occur in sport worldwide. In Western-oriented countries, in Africa, so there is no country where this could not be the case. Question: if you have never had a reported case of harassment and abuse, this issue doesn't concern us. The answer is this is false, because not having a reported case could mean that there is no climate of speaking about it, or there is a lot of taboo. So if there is no case, don't be sure that it couldn't be the case. Harassment and abuse is not a problem.
Madam, please, मैडम ने बोला कि कई क्वेश्चंस पूछ रही है, क्या कई लोग बोलते कि ये हैरासमेंट है, ये सिर्फ कई स्पोर्ट में होता है और सिर्फ कई राज्य में होता है। ये गलत है, ये हर राज्य में होता है, कोई भी स्पोर्ट में हो सकता है। और तीसरा बोला गया है कि अगर हमको मालूम ना पड़े कि कोई हैरासमेंट नहीं, किसी ने बताया नहीं है, तो क्या ये सही है? ये तो गलत है, क्योंकि ये क्लियरली बताती कि लोग अपना लोग उसको वॉइस अपना जो प्रॉब्लम है उसको ऊपर उठा के बोलने की हिम्मत नहीं रखते हैं, वो बाहर तक लाते नहीं है। तो ये भी बिल्कुल गलत है, क्योंकि लोग डरते हैं हमारी कल्चर में, अगर किसी को कुछ हो गया तो इसके लिए हमें आंख बंद करके बोलना चाहिए कि हमारे यहाँ हैरासमेंट नहीं है। आप इंडिया का ही बात देख लीजिए, कई हैरासमेंट ऊपर उठते हैं लेकिन कई जगह पता ही नहीं चलता है। तो इसलिए कि हैरासमेंट अब्यूज ये एक और प्रॉब्लम है कि ये सिर्फ क्या टॉप वाली एथलीट्स होती है, लेकिन ये किसी के साथ भी हो सकती है। यस मैम, थैंक यू।
It's especially for elite athletes a problem, and the higher the level, the bigger the risk of being at risk. Athlete safeguarding should concern everyone working in sport. This is true. And because everyone in sport has the responsibility to adhere to the principle of safe sport. So also officials, coaches, PE teachers have the responsibility to, because of this, of maybe unbalanced power relations, to work on this issue. People with impairment have a lower risk. This is also false. There are a lot of studies that also people who have impairments, are disabled, are at risk as well, like para-athletics. Yeah, maybe we could translate now. Then I'm going to the next.
Speak, yes. इसमें देखा कि एलाइट एथलीट्स पे माने जो खिलाड़ी बहुत आगे उभर आए उन पे ही होता है, नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, वो किसी में भी हो सकता है। और हम लोग पैरालंपिक्स या जो जिनकी कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स होती है, जैसे किसी का हम बोलते हैं कि डेफ डम्ब, या जो स्पेशल ओलंपिक्स वाले बच्चे हैं जो इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबल्ड है, हम लोग या जिनका जैसे पैर या हाथ, ऐसे लोगों का पैरालंपिक्स होता है, स्पेशल ओलंपिक्स। इसमें भी हमने देखा है कि बहुत ज्यादा, क्योंकि ये बच्चे कुछ बोल नहीं पाते, तो इसीलिए है कि ये कोई भी स्पोर्ट में कैसे भी हो सकता है, इसलिए हर स्पोर्ट में सेफगार्डिंग जरूरी है। अभी आईओसी ने ये सारे टीचर्स ने, हम टीचर्स नहीं, हम सबको जानकारी कि आईओसी ने अभी एक स्पेशल कोर्स स्टार्ट किया है। जब से ये डॉक्टर निसार का केस उभर आया है, तब से आईओसी बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट है, हर गेम के लिए एक सेफगार्डिंग है। हमें लगता है इंडिया में जो नई शुरुआत होनी चाहिए, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि ये टॉपिक हमारे लिए बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है। और यस मैम, थैंक्स।
So studies have shown that 1 out of 5 athletes has experiences with different forms of sexual violence in sport. 1 out of 3 German squad athletes has experienced, and 1 out of 9 athletes experienced severe sexual violence. So the number is quite high and not low. In general, what I've read in the literature, 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 6 boys have been sexually abused by their 18th birthday. So there are high numbers, and as you can see, it's not a girls issue, it's an issue of girls and boys as well. And there are expected higher dark numbers for boys, because for them it's much more difficult to speak about it because of shame.
Please. इसमें बताया कि हम लोग सोचते हैं कि लड़कियों पे ही होता है, ऐसे लड़कियों का सिर्फ नहीं है। इसको हम बोलते हैं यौन उत्पीड़न। यौन उत्पीड़न जो है ये सिर्फ लड़कियों पे नहीं है, लड़कों का भी जब पूरे राज्य में देखा गया, लड़कों का थोड़ा ज्यादा है, क्योंकि वो लोग लड़कों में बोल नहीं पाते क्या है। हम लोग सोचते लड़कियों पे ही ये पीड़न होती है। पीड़न केस इवन बॉयज लड़कों पे होती है, लेकिन लड़के कई बार हिम्मत नहीं, बोल नहीं पाते। तो मैंने में स्टैटिस्टिक्स बताया कि दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है उसके बारे में जानकारी दी है। थैंक्स मैम।
So what are the definitions? Safeguarding as a process of protecting children and adults to provide safe and effective care, and includes all procedures to prevent harm. This is the one thing. Child protection is a part of the safeguarding process, and you have to look for which children identified as suffering, and this process is also including child protection procedures, responding to a child. Abuse, there are different forms of physical, emotional, or sexual mistreatment, or also the lack of care. So you have to think about lack of care is also something which is a kind of abuse. And it commonly occurs in relationships of trust. This is the difficult thing, because this occurs in situations where you trust persons normally. And abuse can happen to a child regardless of age or gender or race or ability or religion. There are 4 main types: physical, sexual, emotional, and neglect. And on the other hand, abusers are not the dark men behind the bush. They could be nice persons as well. And they are usually known and trusted by the family. This is the difficult situation. Could be adults, male, mostly male, but also some females. Could be young people, could be family members, could be someone in residential settings or community, also in sports and leisure. And it could be directly, but also from persons who are responsible, who don't prevent other people from harming children.
मैडम बोलिए कि ये पीड़न है, ये शारीरिक तौर पे हो सकती है, मानसिक तौर पे हो सकती है, सेक्सुअल तौर पे हो सकती है, और नेग्लेक्ट माने जब कई बच्चों को बिल्कुल हम बिल्कुल अनदेखा करते हैं, उसकी वजह से हो सकती है। और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि हमको लगता है कि ये बाहर वाले लोग करते हैं। काफी बार ये पीड़न होती है जो हम लोग जिसे जानते हैं, ऐसे ही लोग को बच्चों का विश्वास जीत लेते हैं। इसलिए होता है कि जो बच्चे, इनका एक तरीका होता है, वो मैडम अभी आगे तरीका बताती है। तो ये मत सोचिए, ज्यादातर हम लोग के मेन होते होंगे, लेकिन कई जगह लेडीज भी होती हैं, लेकिन बहुत जरूरी है उसके बारे में जानकारी मालूम करना। इसलिए ये नहीं कि जो हमारे पहचान के बाहर वाले, ज्यादातर जिसको हम पहचानते हैं उन पे बच्चा ज्यादा भरोसा करते हैं, और वो लोग किस तरह से भरोसा लेते हैं उसके बारे में मैडम अभी जानकारी देंगी इसके बारे में। इसलिए ये जरूरी है हमें जब बच्चों को सिखाएं कि वो जरूर देखें कि कोई भी जैसे बुलाता है आजकल हम लोग किस तरह से बच्चों को, हम ये शिक्षा भी हमें बच्चों को देना जरूरी है। इसका ये पूरा भी मैडम अभी चार्ट पे बताएंगी, उसका मैं मैडम को बोलने के बाद दोबारा आपको एक्सप्लेन करूंगी। After you explain this chart, then I'll explain. Rosa.
Yeah. And this is possible because of the grooming process, which is a very subtle process. And it's very typical that an offender is looking for a victim. Victims is not everybody, but often persons who are a bit unsure, not clear. The offender is trying to gain trust, is trying to get information, looks where the needs of persons are, they're getting gifts. Then they try to isolate them, separate them from friends, separate them a bit from family. And after that process that the field is sure for the offender, after this moment, abuse begins. And the person is trying to maintain control over the person. So it's very difficult after these steps that a victim, if it's starting telling somebody, it could be the case that nobody would believe that person. So this is a process which works quite well and which makes it really difficult for victims to speak up because the whole personality is influenced by this coach. And also the fear of the victims is that they will lose the last person in trust they have. Also, it's the offender itself. So,
can I explain, please? You finish this part. तो मैम बता रही थी कि जो ये कैसा वो अपना बच्चों, मैम can you just see the previous one, please? Previous slide, please. Pranish, are you playing? Can you show me the previous slide, please? Are you playing it or Pranish? Pranish,
I could try.
The previous slide, please, so that I could show them the chart. Not this, not the video. I just wanted your previous slide of the grooming.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
अभी आप देख रहे हैं ये है जो अपना ये जो पर्सन है वो अपना टारगेट कैसा चूजता है, कैसा देखता है। जो बच्चे ज्यादा इनसिक्योर होते हैं, जो हमेशा रहते हैं कि वो उसको कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स है, वो किसी से ज्यादा मिंगल, ऐसे लोगों को वो लोग टारगेट करते हैं, जिससे कि उनको उन पे कैसे धीरे धीरे से उनको उनसे मेल जोल बढ़ाना, उनका ट्रस्ट, वो लोग भरोसा लेना उनका, इस तरह से वो अपना लोग ढूंढते हैं, बच्चे ढूंढते हैं, जो भी टारगेट ढूंढते हैं। और उससे क्या होता है, धीरे धीरे करके वो बहुत अच्छी तरह से उससे पूरी जानकारी ले लेते हैं, और पूरी जानकारी लेने के बाद धीरे धीरे इस बच्चे को वो लोग दूसरे बच्चों से अलग रखते हैं। तो ज्यादा से ज्यादा समय ये आदमी जो है या लेडी जो भी है, वो उस बच्चे के साथ ज्यादा टाइम गुजारते हैं, उसकी सारी जानकारी लेते हैं। उसके बाद वो अपना पीड़न शुरू करते हैं। जब तक पीड़न शुरू कर लिया, इस बंदे ने पूरा अपना उसके ऊपर कंट्रोल कर लिया, अब उसकी हिम्मत नहीं होती दोबारा, ये बच्चे दोबारा पूरा उसके अंडर में, अभी वो बाहर उसमें से निकलना मुश्किल पड़ता है। ये होती है इसकी जो पूरा तौर तरीका। तो हर बच्चा नहीं होता, मेरे को होता कि हमें बच्चों पे ये जानकारी देना है क्योंकि वो देखते हैं कि कौन सा बच्चा को हम पकड़ सकते हैं, किस बच्चे को हम टारगेट कर सकते हैं। इस तरह से ये लोग अपना, ये जो भी आदमी है या औरत जो भी कोशिश कर, ज्यादातर आदमी लोग होते हैं, औरतें भी होती है, लेकिन वो कैसे अपना शिकार, जो भी शिकार नहीं, आई मीन बच्चे को ढूंढते हैं कि कौन किससे किस पर ये अपना पीड़न करा सकते हैं। थैंक यू मैडम।
I try to, do you see this picture now? That's different. I try to play the video.
You can see the video, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't see the picture, it's only a video, yeah.
Yeah. You can see it here?
When you speak about
Yes, but
violence in sport,
yes.
you tend to think about a bunch of fans fighting on the stands about football. What I want is that society looks down on the field. There is a lot of violence happening on the fields and in the gyms, in the pools against athletes. It was my passion. I just wanted to do gymnastics and represent my country at the Olympics. He controlled everything. You have to understand that in gymnastics, the bond is really very strong because you trust your coach with your life, literally. I would not question him if he made me do bars with a cast on my leg. I would not question him if he ordered me to open my mouth for him. It becomes one of your more important goals in your life is to keep that secret. You were raised to be a role model. You're raised to be a champion, and being a little slut is not being a role model, and that's what you believe. Right now, I am in a project called Voice, and it's all about hearing the voices of those who were affected by sexual abuse in sport. Society needs to listen to those stories, and listen not just with your ears. You have to listen with your eyes, with your heart, because the signs are always there. And only after you listen to those stories and learn how those environments work, only then you can understand and you can really work on prevention.
So,
that you want to say something, you're going to speak of video, then I'll share. Are you going to narrate the video that you said?
No.
After you speak the video which you said, are you going to explain that?
Yeah, I could explain it.
Explain
It was the story of Gloria Vicheras, a Spanish gymnast who was abused from the age from 10 onwards over several years. And the very dramatic situation was that there were lots of signs, and even her family didn't believe her. So as we've heard in the grooming process, offenders are preparing the situation that well that the victims are very often so isolated that it takes sometimes 10, 20 years or longer to the moment they start speaking about it. So it's the very difficult situation on it.
Thanks, ma'am. अभी मैडम बता रही थी कि ये एक स्पेनिश जिम्नास्ट है, वो 10 साल की उम्र से, मैडम from the age of 10 you said, right? From the age of 10. ये बच्ची जो आपने पिक्चर देखा उसमें 10 साल की उम्र से इसको पीड़न सहना पड़ा, लेकिन जिम्नास्ट में उसके पेरेंट्स सब लोग चाहते कि गोल्ड मेडल लाए और कुछ नहीं चाहिए, सबको मेडल चाहिए। बच्चा कुछ भी बोले, बच्चे की हिम्मत नहीं होती है। 10-20 साल लगता है ये बच्चे इतना पीड़न सहने के बाद इसलिए बोलते हैं कि ये कई बार जब पढ़ते हैं, आप एक एक चीज पढ़ो, मैं तो पढ़ के हमें तो हम इतना ज्यादा है कि रो पड़ते हैं वो सुन के, ये बच्चे अपने आप जब, क्योंकि छोटे बच्चे, आपने फोटो देखा, बहुत छोटे छोटे बच्चे हैं जो जिम्नास्टिक में आते हैं, तो वो तो सबको अपना अपने माँ या फादर ऐसा करके देखते हैं, लेकिन उस आंख से जब देखते हैं ये लोग अपना उसका विश्वास भरोसा तोड़ देते हैं, लेकिन उस तरह से ये बच्चे को बिल्कुल अकेला कर देते हैं, अकेले करने में बच्चे हिम्मत हार जाता है, तो वो जिंदगी से हारता है। तो इसमें लिखा है कि आप सिर्फ आंखों से मत देखिए, इसको कान से भी सुनिए, उसके बाद जो हृदय से भी उसको आप जब महसूस करना शुरू करेंगे ना, तभी हमें मालूम। इसलिए बहुत जरूरी कि सबकी आवाज हम सुने, और आवाज को ऊपर उठाना हमारी सबसे बड़ी जरूरत है। तो हम पी टीचर्स मिलकर हमें ऐसा एक जंग लाना चाहिए जिससे कि हम बदलाव ला सके सोसाइटी। इसलिए प्रिवेंशन जरूरी है। थैंक्स मैम।
So international organizations are working hard on implementing standards for safeguarding and protecting children because they know they're responsible for it. And I focus on the standards from the Child Protection in Sport unit from United Kingdom. And it's a very good book. You can Google it, and there are benefits of these standards because it's important to have safe sporting environments, to have benchmarks to assist, and to promote good practice. So these are the benefits, and it's important for children and young people, parents and carers, for those working in sport, and also for the organization themselves. So, and the principles, you have to think very carefully on it, that children and young people have a right to enjoy sport free from all forms of abuse and exploitation, and children and young people have equal rights to protection from harm. So fairness, equality is an important issue. And another issue is that everybody in the field of sport is responsible to take care and to support this issue. And the sports organizations have the duty of care. So, for example, in Austria, if there is a case in a sports club, then it's not the duty of the athletes or the parents, it's the duty of the sports organizations, and they have to make clear that they have done everything that cases like this won't be able to occur. So there are 10 standards. I show it in detail.
Yeah. मैंने बता रही थी कि मैडम ऑस्ट्रिया में है, वहां अगर स्पोर्ट्स, मैडम कोई भी क्लब्स में अगर किसी बच्चे के साथ पीड़न हुआ है, तो वो पेरेंट्स के या वो क्लब का नहीं है, वो जो पूरी अथॉरिटी है उनको, वो जो स्पोर्ट वाले अथॉरिटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को पूरा उनका उसी समय से इनिशिएटिव लेके जो स्टेप्स लेना पड़ेगा जिससे कि उसको सॉल्व कर पाए, अनदेखी नहीं कर सकते। तो वहाँ बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस है। आपको दोबारा बोल रही हूँ, इंडियन IOC लेके आई है ये सेफ गार्डिंग, और सेफ गार्डिंग एक एक स्पोर्ट के लिए अलग अलग है। इसलिए हमारे यहाँ हमने अभी तक इसकी शुरुआत नहीं की है, हम लोग को पता नहीं है इसके बारे में सेफ गार्डिंग क्या है करके। तो इसकी जो है कई राज्य में ऑलरेडी बहुत स्ट्रिक्ट हो चुका है, जिससे कि इसको हम चेक कर पाए। हम लोग को तो आम तरीके पे हमको पता है कि वैसे पीड़न होती है, लेकिन स्पोर्ट्स में जो होती है उसके लिए भी हमें हम अपनी तरफ से देखना चाहिए कि बच्चों को किस तरह से हम उनको जो भी है समझाएं, जिससे कि इसकी हम रेशियो कम कर सकते हैं। थैंक्स मैम।
So standard 1 is having a policy in place, because a statement is a commitment, and in Austria, for example, all 65 sports organizations have signed this commitment, and this makes sure that there is a work on it. The second standard are procedures and operating systems, which help provide a clear step-by-step guidance for different situations, and where it makes clear who is responsible if there is a case, if there is a situation, who has to react on it. And so it's important to have these procedures. For example, how to, is there a guidance on photography, social media? Can everybody access the child protection procedures? So these are important questions. The second step is prevention, because it's necessary to help measures to minimize the risk and to prevent abuse by putting safeguards in place. So we were looking for different safeguards for the different sports we have in Austria. Is there, for example, a safeguarding plan for trips or transporting children? How could they be supervised, and so on? Standard number 4 is a code of practice and behavior, a code of ethics. These are important because they're benchmarks of what is acceptable and what not. And it's important not only for the coaches and officials just to sign it, but also develop it, because everything which is produced in common or together has a higher chance to be implemented. Number 5 is equity. These are measures to ensure the needs of all children and to set steps to combat discriminations. And there is the question, is safeguarding policy clear? Having children equal rights? Do the staff know about it? What are the codes of conduct in our organization? And these are the aspects on it. Important aspect is also the field of the standard of communication, because the best standards are useless if they are not communicated, and you need to find ways that people get to know about it, to be aware of them, to have some ownership of them, and having the opportunity to express views on how they are working. Standard number 7 is education and training. And the question is, how do the organizations, sport organizations or school organizations provide trainings for coaches, trainings for PE teachers, trainings for the staff and volunteers to get aware of this issue? Standard number 8 is access to advice and support. If there are cases, you also have to give advice and support, and you have to prepare and you have to organize the fundings for it, because children need someone to turn to when they are being abused or harassed or something like this. And you have to think about how could children get the information, that there are people in trust, there are persons in trust who could help them. Number 9 is our strategies and policies, how to implement these strategies so that they are getting implemented in all parts of the organization. And the last standard is influencing and assessment, to make sure that it's not enough to have standards, but there are actions necessary, that also partner organizations are aware of these standards and are helping for safeguarding children. Okay, then we are coming to models of good practice and projects. This could be, it was a bit theoretical the part before, but you could take these 10 standards and make a checklist, what is already realized, what is in planning, and what has not been thought about. So it helps organizations on their way to get safe environments in the sport organizations. I've took some different examples of good practice. For example, the project for respect and safety from Austria. And they were developing, on the one hand, folders and flyers and posters. On the one hand, to make the rules clear for the coaches. On the one hand, to have respect. The second was communication and clear roles. The third point is supervision and 6I principle, which means for coaches, take care that you are not alone with coach with athlete, but at least 2 athletes. And if it's not possible that you're alone, if it's necessary that coach is alone with an athlete, or a teacher alone with one pupil, then make it clear to communicate with the parents about it, offer the situation that all the time everybody could join this situation, so that it's getting a transparent situation. And the number 4 is sporting assistance. and physical touches, and you should communicate with coaches, with the parents, with the athletes, in which situation there is a physical touch. And if it's an unwanted touch, then you should make clear that children could speak about it, where are the limits, what is allowed, what is appropriate for them and what not, so that you produce an atmosphere where you can speak about what's going on. This is a very important issue for prevention.
Dr. Rosa, can I just speak the previous one, please? At least 2 points. मैडम ये बता रही थी कि एक तो है कि ये हम लोग कैसे एक दूसरे का ख्याल रख सकते हैं. कई बार होता है कि कोच सही होता है लेकिन किसी वजह से हैरेसमेंट में प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है. सबसे पहले हम रेस्पेक्ट कम्युनिकेशन, तो उसके अलावा कभी भी अकेले एक एथलीट के साथ नहीं होना है. अगर लेना है तो कम से कम 2-3 लड़कियां साथ होनी चाहिए. अगर लड़कियां लड़के हो तो हम अपने आप को सेफ रख सकते हैं. दूसरी बात ये मैडम ने कहा कि जो गुड टच है या जो सही टच है, अगर कोई बच्चा जब हम सिखा रहे हैं उसको टच कर रहे हैं और उसको अच्छा ही लग रहा है, तो बच्चे से पूछे कि आपको ये ठीक नहीं लग रहा था, बोलिए. तो बच्चों से ये जरूर बताइए कि ये तो प्रिंसिपल बहुत जरूरी है. कई बार देखा है कोचेस सही है लेकिन अनजाने में किसी बच्चे के साथ तो उन्होंने बोल दिया हैरेसमेंट हो गया. तो इसकी तरह से हम भी अपनी तरफ से सेफ रख सकते हैं. तो ये दोनों बहुत जरूरी है, फिजिकल टच जो सही टच है. और तो बच्चों को बोलना, देखो आपको अगर ये टच पसंद नहीं आया तो बताइएगा, क्योंकि हमें स्पोर्ट्स में बच्चों कई बार हमें टच करके करेक्शंस करना पड़ता है. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज बता रही हूँ, क्योंकि आजकल काफी हर डिपार्टमेंट में जो सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट का केसेस आ रहा है. कई बार हम देखते हैं कोचेस गलत नहीं है लेकिन कई बार अनजाने तरीके से हो जाता है. थैंक्स मैम.
A second paper we distributed for the coaches is which signs could be there in the field where they should be sensitive for it and maybe they should act. One situation could be when children are mocked, outsiders, and ridiculed. A second situation is when individual children are repeatedly selected for certain activities or receiving gifts or getting special attention. Then you should be sensitive for it. Maybe it could be
Madam, could you just explain the first one, please? Children are mocked, outsiders are ridiculed. Can you just explain that, please?
For example, it depends on having equal rights, because if you make one children to an outsider or very specific or being discriminated, is for offenders a chance to focus on this specific children because he has no support from others. And this is one process in the grooming process where you can separate children then more easily. And if this is the case, you have to act or react as a coach. If the different children are getting SMS messages with personal contact which has nothing to do with sport, or with pictures from the coach, or with pictures from children having not much clothes on or parts are naked, or if someone is seeing that private training sessions are increasing, the number is increasing, or meetings are often alone with single children, then you should be sensitive what's going on. Or if there are touches not related to sport or accidental touches are repeating. So touches which are not necessary, and somebody think, what has this to do with the kind of sport or with safety situations? Or if there are jokes or stories with a sexual background told to the children, this is not appropriate. Or inappropriate comments about the physical appearance. You are too sick. You are obese or something like this. You are not beautiful. Has nothing to do at the end with sport. Or if children change their normal habits, for example, too close or too distance, or negative or critical physical awareness, getting eating disorders is often also a sign, or very excessive sports, or if they don't want to go to sports anymore, or if they are withdrawing from the team. So there are different signs which must not, but they could be signals which children are sending out for help.
I just want to explain,
Mhm.
please. मैडम ये बोल रही थी कि अगर कोई ऐसा कोच, हम कई बार क्या करते हैं, बच्चों को कुछ भी गुस्सा करके उसको निकाल दिया बाहर, तो इसमें क्या होता है, ऐसे बच्चे दूसरे इसमें फंसने के इजी चांसेस हैं। और दूसरा क्या है, कई बार कई लोग होते हैं वो बार बार आके गिफ्ट देते हैं, तो बच्चों को हमें ये देना कि अगर कोई आपको ऐसे दे रहा है, दैट मींस इसके पीछे कुछ और इंटेंशन है। SMS अगर भेजा जा रहा है बच्चों को, स्पोर्ट्स के अलावा और कई चीजों, वो भी गलत है। ट्रेनिंग सेशन से बोल दे तुम अकेले आओ, इसका मीटिंग अगर ज्यादा बढ़ा रहे हैं तो उसमें भी प्रॉब्लम है। और ऐसे जोक्स बोले जो कि सही नहीं है, तो उसमें भी हमें मालूम करना पड़ता है कि बच्चे का अगर। और दूसरी बात, सबसे बड़ी बात मैंने बोला कि बच्चे के बिहेवियर में कुछ बदलाव आया है। थोड़े टाइम से हम देख रहे हैं कि बच्चा रेगुलर जैसा है वैसा नहीं है, थोड़ा उसमें बदलाव आया, या ज्यादा वीक हो गए। कई लोगों में ईटिंग डिसऑर्डर माने खाना नहीं खा पा रहे, तो हमें ये भी तब हमको जान लेना चाहिए कि कुछ प्रॉब्लम्स है। तो ये बहुत जरूरी, क्योंकि जैसे बच्चे, हम अपने बच्चे जैसे उनको ट्रीट करें, उनका प्रॉब्लम क्या है हमें मालूम करना जरूरी है। थैंक्स मैम।
And the third information was also how to strengthen children and young people in the field of prevention. And one important aspect which is focused in all of the literature on prevention is to remove taboos. This is not that easy because on the one hand you have to tell children what are their rights and what is appropriate and what not. And you can start this in early years, so age specifically, but you can start in kindergarten as well. And one issue is to develop self and body confidence, and how to speak about the body, how to name different parts of the body, and to find ways how to empower them and to make them strong, also in kinds of self-defense, for example, but giving them words for speaking about and developing body and self-confidence. A third point is to protect their boundaries, that they learn when and how to say, no, I don't like this, and to argue it. And a fourth point is having a person in trust. This is also for seminars for children. At the end, you write, for example, a letter to yourself and think about persons. If you are once in a difficult situation, to whom would you go? Who is your person in trust? So that when you're in a situation, you easily remember where are the persons whom I could go to. This is an important step, and important to sensitize parents. So these three aspects on what are the rules and principles for coaches, which are situations where you have to act, and how to strengthen children and young people was in this project were the three main points for prevention.
Ma'am, could I just explain? देखिए, इसमें है कि हम अपने कल्चर को तो बदल नहीं सकते, लेकिन बच्चों को मालूम होनी चाहिए उनकी राइट्स क्या है, उनके लिए क्या सही क्या गलत है, हमें बच्चों को सिखाना जरूरी है। और दूसरा है कि बच्चों में क्या है, मैडम कहती है किंडरगार्टन, जो छोटे बच्चे हैं फर्स्ट स्टैंडर्ड से भी पहले किंडरगार्टन वाले बच्चों को उनकी कौन सी बॉडी पार्ट्स उसके बारे में बच्चे बोले, बच्चा पहले से ही बोलना शुरू कर रहे हैं, उस तरह से हम अपने बच्चों की तैयारी कर सकते हैं। हम तो कहते हैं बेटी को बचा सकते हैं, बेटी या बेटे दोनों उनको बचा सकते हैं, इसके लिए हमें उनमें कॉन्फिडेंस लाना ज्यादा जरूरी है। और इनको जरा बोले, प्रोटेक्टिंग बाउंड्रीज माने उनको मालूम होना चाहिए कि क्या गलत है क्या सही है। जब किसी ने अपना जो लिमिट क्रॉस किया था, वो बच्चा सीधा बोले नहीं मेरे को पसंद नहीं है। हम आजकल सारे यस हम बोलते हैं कि हम हाँ में हाँ मिलाते हैं, तो हमें बच्चों को बहुत जरूरी सिखाना है कि जो गलत है उसके लिए हम कभी भी साथ न दे या हाँ न बोले। तो ना बोलना भी हमें सीखना जरूरी है। शुरू में प्रॉब्लम तो आ सकती है, लेकिन दूसरी बात अगर किसी बच्चे के साथ कुछ होता है तो बच्चों को मालूम होना चाहिए मुझे पहले किससे जाके इसको बात करनी है। कई बार बच्चे सोचते हैं मैं किसी के पास बात करूं, तो पेरेंट्स भी कई बार सुनने को तैयार नहीं, इसलिए कि पेरेंट्स भी समझे। काफी प्रॉब्लम होती है जब पेरेंट्स भी भरोसा कर लेते कि जो दूसरे से ये बच्चा गलत है, तो हमें बहुत जरूरी है कि बच्चा को कोई ऐसा पर्सन होना जानकारी होनी चाहिए कि कुछ भी हो वो उससे जाके खुल के बात करें। इससे हम अपने बच्चों को, बेटी या बेटों को हम स्ट्रॉन्ग कर सकते हैं।
Thank you, Usha. In the following, I show you just some examples and where you find brochures and information or projects. IOC produced a toolkit for international federations and national Olympic committees, what they can do in their organizations and federations for safeguarding athletes is an important issue, very good material. In the European Commission, there is a child safeguarding in sport project running at the moment, where they try to implement all these strategies found in the different partner countries. FIFA, also football soccer association, has a very good toolkit with different principles how to implement it, especially like in the football association and federation. The project Voice you have already heard, and the example from Silvia Bicheras, the video we saw before. On this homepage you can find different stories of people who were affected from violence, and also with educational material if you want to use it, for example, in a class. And I also found that this is very important and good that also in India there are already different examples how to strengthen, for example, in this case, girls with karate and self-defense courses. And for example, Laureus Award, Sport for Good Award, where in different projects, in this case girls, were supported through sport to get empowered, to get strong, and which helps them to stand up and speak up if there are different cases. This was my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Maybe Usha is saying some last words for it, and thank you so much. Just the resources and
Thank you so much.
thank you.
It was such a wonderful session, and I think I took half of your time, but I felt it was required that they understand. And there are a few questions, so I just taken some of them where they said as, like for Indu Sharma has asked, if a player does not talk about a sexual harassment, then how can a teacher find this problem? The player,
yeah,
the player is unable to speak about the sexual harassment.
mm-hmm.
So how can the teacher identify this problem?
Yeah, it is for sure that physical education teachers or coaches are no therapists, and there are no experts in the field, but they are able to identify signs, to see if there is something going on, and they could organize support from outside. Important thing would be that there is a situation of trust to the teacher, to the coach. This is an important thing, that you are offering situations of speaking about the body, and then it's maybe easier for PE teachers and coaches that there is a lot of trust in these people that this issue could be transparently spoken or in individual situations. I hope this was answering the question you had.
मैं तो आप समझ गए होंगे कि मैडम बोल रही थी कि अगर ये है हमें देखना चाहिए कुछ इसमें कुछ साइंस है क्या, कोई उसके बर्ताव में कुछ बदलाव आया है, उसका क्या प्रॉब्लम। सबसे पहले कि जब टीचर से बात करते हैं उनको हमारा विश्वास जीतना चाहिए, इसलिए हमें another question I like to put across, because often we straight away go to the question, so you find this person not responding. We often have a person of, for example, a person says, this happened to you. So I think this is not a right approach where we straight away tell that it was a sexual harassment or you have been victimized. When we say this person feels still bad. So how do you suggest this? Because nobody would like to get it directly, because that affects the person in terms of, so this person would not try to come out further. Here, what I experienced on an average, everybody starts bombarding, it's your mistake, it's you who did this. So many of them, they straight away say. On the other hand, if they go to another person, they would not come to the topic directly. Indirectly, they, as you said, they try getting they'll talk of something else, but then indirectly try to get the matter from them. This is how they happen to speak. Hope able to understand what I'm speaking. But here, what happens is many times, often there's not one. people, even without listening, they start blaming the victim itself. It's because of you this happened. It is you who got this done. So this is one issue which often we come across. And then often when it is with the women, the issue is much worse, because they find this, no, she cannot be trusted. It is always at times the coach who's right, or whatever cases. So I think, and as you said, communication and approach. So this requires somebody who's got a good understanding, who's mature, only then it's possible.
Just a comment on it, totally agree. The difficult situation, or the situation, is at the end that the coach or the teacher, the adult person, is the responsible person. And the child or children are not those responsible for the situation, because they're growing, they're developing, and it's always the duty and the task of the coach to clear the situation. It's, if you look to developmental aspects of young people, it's their development task to look for relationships. It's their development task to look for the identity, who could be interested in one or not. But the task of the duty of the coach is that it's not allowed to have a relationship with a minor. It's not allowed, whatever the children are doing, maybe they want to have a relationship with the coach, but the duty of the coach is to say, no, this is sports. I'm the coach, you're the athlete, I'm the teacher, you're the pupil or student. And to make clear what is the role of a coach and what is the role of a young people, and whatever young people are doing, coaches have to make clear where the borders are and the limits are, and not the young people. And you have to communicate. And if you make it very clear what your role is as a coach, I'm not a friend, I'm not a special friend, and I'm not a partner for young people, children, I'm the coach and I have another function and another role, then it's also easier, because then it's not possible that somebody is saying to young people, you are the one, it's your fault that you are harassed or so on. It's never the fault of a young people. It's always the fault from the person who has the power, and this has to be made visible at the end.
मैडम ये कहती कि जो पर्सन जो भी बड़े होते हैं उनको ज्यादा समझ आनी चाहिए, जिसके पास ज्यादा पावर है वही लोग ज्यादातर ये प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट करते हैं. हमें कभी भी बच्चों पे हमें उंगली नहीं उठाना चाहिए सीधा, लेकिन बच्चे कुछ भी गलत कर सकते हैं, लेकिन बड़ों से हमें एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करते हैं. तो बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि कई बार पावर के साथ कई चीजें आती है जो सही नहीं होता. तो हमने ये देखा कि काफी प्रॉब्लम्स है, लेकिन हम बच्चों का, हमें सारे बच्चे अपना बच्चे जब समझते हैं तो हमें देखना चाहिए उनके लिए कितना अच्छा माहौल क्रिएट करते हैं. Another issue which, because since I'm also dealing with this, is children. They're very sensitive. They're very tense. They have a fear. Like somebody comes and asks me, "Can I change this coach? Ma'am, can you help me?" But I don't want anybody to know. I don't want anybody to know. Then I would not want that the trust to be lost, because I did have situations where most of them would come to me, and a lot of things I keep it to myself because I understand how it is. But then at times, many of them, they tend to leave the sport, but they don't want people to know, because they find once they know, then the whole career is otherwise also gone. So that is one problem which often comes across. So once they grow up to a particular age, that's different. But before they have reached, then many a time, like as you said, the coaches or whoever the cases, I don't blame every time, but I'm just saying, giving a situation. So in such cases, what do you think, what could be done? Because at times we are helpless. Helpless at times. But I too had come across situations. I'm not supposed to speak in this occasion, but I'm just putting across, like teachers know. And then I find there are others also where they know, but they cannot do anything. So that sort of a thing comes up. But then we find is, are we doing justice? Is often a question which comes in.
That is a very difficult situation, because on the one hand, you're the person in trust. And on the other hand, you have also in different countries it's the law to tell if there is something going wrong. And if there is a person at high risk, and there could be big damage on the child, then it's important to give this case to another authority, maybe to the police, and maybe to, for in Austria, if I would know about the situation, I have the task to tell the police. We found in Austria some information because the victim support organizations have a specific role. So the important thing would be, if you know about the situation as a teacher, as a coach, you ask a victim support organization and they take over the case and they decide, should I go to the police? Should I go to a lawyer? Should we keep it in this situation and just support the victim, that she can stand in the team and don't have to go out or quit the team because her very important goal is, for example, to go to the Olympics. So there are different strategies, and if it's a difficult case, always contact a victim support organization. They know exactly what to do in different cases and what could be the next step. The task for coaches and teachers is to see the signs, to offer yourself as a person of trust, and to offer help and advice.
Thanks, Rosa. Claudia has to leave. I'm sorry, Claudia, I forgot about it. Claudia, for your remarks, please. I'm sorry, extremely sorry. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's right. I won't leave because it's so interesting, the topic that Rosa talks about. I must leave because of work. But Rosa, thanks for the presentation. You open a very interesting panorama, because it's true that everybody thinking the benefits of the sport, but we don't really show it, make a pause to think about the safeguard of children. The statistics you show are really impressive and worried, and we must take care about it. The statistic that the children are not safe, and when we think that are safe with their trainers or the training group is impressive. So we as adults have to ensure the safety of children, talking with them and taking care in every situation when we notice a change in the child. So thank you very much for this topic, Rosa. Thank you, Usha, because you made a wonderful work.
Thank you so much. I needed to thank Claudia. I
to leave.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I would like just to ask one more. In a country like India, I've been asking every time the same question. We do not have any policies as such, because I don't know. I don't say all our teachers, PE teachers do a wonderful job. We help our children. You find most of the teachers doing a good job. मैं बता रही थी मैडम को कि सारे PE teachers बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. वो सारे बच्चों का ध्यान रखते हैं, देखते हैं कि बच्चों को कोई तकलीफ ना हो. पीड़न कैसे किसी का बारे में लाए बजाय उसको हम उसको नोटिस में लाना, ये सारे PE teachers करते हैं. लेकिन इसके बावजूद भी हम देखा गया हमारे पास एक सही सिस्टम नहीं है, तरीका नहीं है इंडिया में. तो उसके लिए मैं मैडम से पूछी हम क्या कर सकते हैं. I'm asking, since we don't have a policy as such here, and we talk of something, we have a sexual harassment cell, we have things like that, but from sport point of view, safeguarding in sport, I don't think we have it yet in the country. Then how could we start that process in India? If I'd like to start something, how could we think of starting?
From CIRI, CIRI would start having a commitment, a policy commitment, and it's more or less a top-down process that the minister, the presidents of the national organizations and federations would be aware that the issue is important, and would be aware that the numbers of cases of harassment are decreasing if there are standards in place. This is evaluated, this is known. So speaking about the issue means that we are preventing, and discrimination, abuse would, the numbers would go down at the end. And having this in mind, then you could convince much easier the sports clubs level. So going from the top down, the minister, the presidents are a role model that they think that the issue is important, then you can start breaking it down to the grassroots.
Thank you, because our minister is very zero tolerance. Our director general of sports are all zero tolerance. They find anything, immediate action to be taken. That's what is done at the top. So they are very particular of that. So there is, in terms of the top, it's coming in, but definitely we'd like to do something in the country. As you said, creating an awareness. Our children, when you tell them what their rights are, children don't pay attention to it because they think nothing is going to happen to them. Because they think it's happening to somebody else. Like we talk of COVID. We never thought COVID. But then the same is the case. We give awareness talks, but then they don't want to listen all these talks. Yeah. So it's very important. How do we, very important to orient the children what their rights are. The sports athletes, the young girls, when we tell them, we find that is one issue that we're coming across. We a lot of gender sensitization and talks are on. But to what extent it's being effective, I don't know. Because we keep telling them, see, you don't realize how, but I think that's not the right approach. Because I find them totally ignoring, disinterested. You keep a movie, all will be interested. But when you give to such talks, we ain't fine. So I was finding that difficult here. Because I said, you should have seen the Dr. Larry's case. I was literally weeping when I was reading each of these comments of the thing. It's so emotional. And you really feel so sorry with the tender children, what's happening, when at that age. So that's what it was like. So I think, but Rosa, with your help, you'd like to definitely start with some small booklet sort of a thing, a material can help for us for the Indian thing. If you can give it to the ministry and we'll bring it to because we'd like to come out with some resolution. मैं मैडम से बता रही कि हम शुरुआत कर सकते हैं ये पी प्रोग्राम से, कुछ शुरुआत जैसे कि हम छोटा सा बुकलेट निकालें और जानकारी दें और बच्चों में ज्यादा जानकारी दे सकते हैं. हम लोग हमारे राज्य को और भी अच्छा कर सकते हैं क्योंकि हम अपने बेटे और बेटियों को बचाना बहुत जरूरी है एंड ये फिजिकल एजुकेशन हमारे बहुत अच्छा कर सकते हैं. So ma'am, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful session, and I don't know, because I think we are in the stage of infancy and we keep waiting for some problem to occur. So often what I do is, even something which is a small level, we take it serious. But then at the level, it doesn't come under harassment, because harassment is laid down. This is what is sexual harassment. But when we say something at that level, it doesn't stop. As you said, you can give it to the victim. So what do you mean by the victim? So that the benchmarking is something that has to reach a particular stage. Is it not possible to have a check before that, so that can be curbed earlier? So that's what I was thinking, if you can have, because here when they talk of sexual harassment, there are, and only then this comes under sexual harassment. Only when this happens, then this comes for penalizing. So I felt was if you can have something before that, which is there. So what will happen? That may not be serious, but then there are no penalties for it when it doesn't come to that level. So I'm sorry, it doesn't come under that category. That's one issue which we have been facing. Yeah. So I think there are lots of issues. Then I think it's very sensitive issues. And I don't blame each time only the teacher, coach, or children. We don't know what happens. But I really would like to thank you, because it's been such a thing. So I request you, if you can help us, and I too we can get together and chalk out a small framework policy in a booklet, in a written form. If you can help that for the ministry, we can give it that to the government ministry, and this is what can be implemented for. They'd be very happy, because that's part of the outcome, and we can propose that to the ministry. And in due course, we can always think of, I said we would like to have short-term courses. So we are looking forward to that, so that we can help save our girl child. We need to make them really fit. We need them to speak up. So I was wanting each athlete to narrate their life story. If they can speak up, they won't even speak up anything, because if they have to speak in front of something, they'll say, they will ask their coach or somebody, parents, can I speak like this? Then they would speak. They will not speak all by themselves. You ask a child, they'll say, let me ask my coach, only then I will speak all this.
That's a problem, yeah. That's why so many don't speak about and stop. But so you see, you have to focus on communication, quite a lot, and this makes a difference how your daily routine in a sport course in PE looks like. It's the kind you speak with the pupil, the role you take, the responsibility you have. On the one hand, it's an easy pedagogical issue. If you make it right, you don't have the problem on the other hand, but it's so subtle and it's always there if there is a power relation in it. And you also have to work on which role, which kind of power do I have as a PE teacher, as a coach. And there's so many issues to think about. But there are also...
But I thought if we can have them speaking up. Athletes, they can speak up anything they feel. We are not asking what you speak up. You speak up anything that you want to. We will not ask you to point out this. So I thought, let me start off with that. Athletes can start at their level so that they get a confidence of speaking up. We are not asking speaking of what content. Let them just speak out whatever they feel like. So that could be a starting point where they could do. I was just thinking that way if it's possible. So that would help, because athletes are submissive at times. They have a few, they won't speak up. So I thought this can help them initially to boost up their confidence. And this is what I thought of starting off. But please keep in mind this. I'll definitely put a mail across to you. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
For this wonderful session. So we come to the end of the session. Before that, I'll have Pranesh, are you there? On behalf of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India, Khelo India, a big thank you. Talk to you.
Thank you. Namaste.
And man, you're so beautiful, I should say that. Because last time you came, that's a glamour. It's always there. So thank you so much. It's such a wonderful session, because this topic is not an easy topic, as you said. And you've been working with this European Union and others project. I don't know how come here you ask about people to not speak up. So thank you so much, madam, for this wonderful session of yours. And you are helping India in actually coming up. And you're saving our children, boys and girls, you're saving them. Yeah. This was your significant contribution. I'm not talking only to India, but across the world. So thank you so much. We owe you, because the future lies with you in what you penned on. Thank you so much, madam.
The future is in the hand of the PE teachers and coaches.
Teachers, yes. So yes. Madam, बोल रही है future सारे PE teachers के हाथ में. PE teachers सब अच्छा कर सकते हैं. I also would like to thank Dr. G. Kishore sir. Thank you so much. So I'd like to thank my dear PE teachers, because I believe you're the heart and soul of this program, and you're doing a great job. You're doing a wonderful job. आप सब बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं. तो इसलिए मैं आप सबको धन्यवाद देना चाहती हूँ, क्योंकि आप लोग सही तरह से ग्राउंड में बच्चे के साथ जो है, and the best part is आप जो बच्चों के साथ है, the love that you get from children, that is really so beneficial as compared to when we teach the grown-ups is different, but with children it's something. You're lucky, you get energy from children. So I think you're blessed when you're with children. So I need to thank all my dear PE teachers. I'd like to thank Dr. Sanjeev Patil, who's been working behind the screen day and night. I'd like to thank Mr. Pranesh and Harihar. And thank you so much for each one of you. Please don't forget for the webinar tomorrow. Rosa, we have a webinar tomorrow, and it starts. I know you might be busy, but it just happened to drop in at 5:30. We also have a minister coming in, so we have a specified program. So once again, I'd like to thank each one of you. Pranesh, for the feedback, please. Rosa has a problem with the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a flu, and then now she's got problems with the voice.
Okay.
Up feedback, Bariya, please. Yeah, you can see the feedback. So my teachers, my teachers, many are from Bihar, and so you can see the feedback. You'll be learning Hindi by the end, Rosa. I'll be learning.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's nice. So it was a wonderful session. You can see this. I think it's been excellent, because I don't think you need anybody else to say for